Question. We're going to utilize the agenda that is flighted on that platform for this session. Without wasting time, let me take this opportunity to greet honorable members present here. The MEC of Coxstar, Ntate Makamu, representing the Premier, the Office of the Premier, you are welcomed into this session. We have convened this meeting as the Portfolio Committee so that we should be able to come and get a briefing by the Office of the Premier with regard to the APPs and the implementation of previous committee resolutions. So I won't take time going into dealing with other issues, except to just say you are welcome into this session. This is our meeting, and we should be free to engage and deal with all other matters pertaining to this meeting. So the meeting is officially opened. I will then, without wasting time, move to item 2, which is roll call and apologies. I will request the coordinator to deal with that one.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Greetings to all committee, the committee, Portfolio Committee in Administration and the Premier's Office and committee support staff. My name is Mabuda Sokhota, the committee coordinator. The apologies that the committee received today, we have the apology from Honorable Wilson E.R., apology from Honorable Nembumbuluni TC, Honorable Chivase KP, Honorable Nechifefe, and from the committee support staff, we have located the apology from Mr. Ghana, the committee coordinator, and Ms. Mokovani. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thanks, coordinator. Can I then afford the Office of Premiers led by the MEC if there are apologies on their side, so that.
Thanks very much, Chair, and greetings to all members of the Portfolio Committee on Administration. I'm here on behalf of the Premier, who has duly written an apology, which I think the committee chair received, with the team from the OTP. When I spoke to the DG, we are almost having the full complement of the executive management of OTP. Thank you.
Okay. No, thanks, MEC. Maybe let me just state categorically that we really received the apology from the Premier. We were also able to talk with her, and we agreed that we are going to proceed with the meeting. And she assured me that at least she will be able to send the MEC of Coxstar to come and be in this meeting, leading the delegation. So we are aware of that, MEC. I would then afford you the space and time to take us through the briefing. Honorable MEC.
Thanks very much, Chair, once again, and greetings I will request the DG of the Provincial Administration and Accounting Office of OTP to take us on the item. I think the first one, it shows like an annual performance plan and the implementation of the resolutions. Over to you, DG.
Honorable Chairperson and the honorable members present, my name is Mr. Napen Chabeleng, Director General, Limpopo Provincial Government and the Accounting Officer for the Office of the Premier. As per the directive, I will go through the overview on the APP for the 2026-27 financial year, moving from a premise that, with your permission, Honorable Chair, that the honorable members have gone through it. Then I'll just isolate on the key, talk to it, be more emphatic on certain critical issues that may be of interest to the portfolio honorable members. And as it is shown on the platform, we have got 3 main sections of the report. The first one, basically, or Part A and Part B and Part C. Those are the areas that I will want to focus mainly on. But bearing in mind that we are the Office of the Premier, our responsibility is transversal in nature. Then if the honorable members permit, I will also try to be more substantive on the socio-economic profile of the province, because in our view, that's basically the core. Then we may then proceed to slide number 5, which basically introduces the subject matter to say that the APP, which is before us, was tabled at the legislature on the 17th of March 2026. And it is briefly guided by the Limpopo Development Plan, which is the Provincial Growth and Development Strategy for the current term of the administration. And flowing from the LDP, the office then developed the Strategic Plan 2025-2030, which then guides, articulates on how we are envisaging to execute our responsibilities as the office flowing from the Limpopo Development Plan. And then both the OTP Strategic Plan and the LDP are guided by the Cabinet overall overarching strategy, which deals with the medium-term development plan for 2024 to 2029. And of course, that medium-term development plan is guided by the National Development Plan 2030, or if you like, Vision 2030. And then on the next slide, we just want to reiterate, honorable members, that broadly, our mandate has not changed, except to say in passing, because I think it may be an important point to raise later, that the President has recently promulgated the Public Service Amendment Act, which then put more emphasis on the role of the Office of the Premier in dealing with the career incidents of the public servants, including senior management service. But obviously, at an appropriate time, we'll then go into details with that. But other legislation are more or less the same. Of course, in some instances, you'll find that there were some amendments that are going through the legislative process. For instance, with regards to slide number 8, we have got the Intergovernmental Relations Framework Act, which is now we have got a bill which is trying to reinforce the concept of IGR, taking into cognizance the policy decision on the district development model. Then they want to actually enact it so that there is no challenge. But other legislation are more or less the same, with your permission, honorable members. Then we can then go to part B. The vision and mission, equally so, is still the same. Then I will not want to venture into it unless honorable members need clarity on. Equally so, with regards to values that are in line with the relevant chapter in the Constitution which promotes a developmental government and public service, then I will not reiterate on those issues because they are still there. Then slide number 12 deals with our strategic focus areas guided by the Limpopo Development Plan, as I've earlier alluded to. But the key issue there is with regards to subsection B, which enunciates our key strategic focus areas as the office. And then amongst others is building a capable, ethical, and professional provincial administration, strengthening integrated governance and policy coherence, and advancing inclusive governance and participation. Those are the key strategic areas. Of course, in terms of the subsequent section, we are more deliberate on each focus area. Then on slide number 13, we are outlining the key issues that are informing that specific strategic focus, whereby equally so Cabinet has approved a policy which is broadly referred to professionalization of public service framework, which then gives directives on how provincial government and of course including other spheres of government should respond to those imperatives. And then bearing in mind that it deals fundamentally with public administration, then the Office of the Premier is expected to play a leading role thereof. Then, as I've earlier indicated, we are expected to implement certain prescripts or directives that are intending to institutionalize the framework thereof. And then another aspect which normally the honorable members put an emphasis on is with regards to issues of consequence management to reduce corruption and maladministration. This is an area that we are focusing on in the current financial year, but flowing from the previous financial years. And it is indeed linked to issues of ethical management and leadership. Then the item strategic focus 2 basically deals with issues of integrated planning, monitoring and evaluation, both at the level of the provincial administration and then also in terms of the overall support to local government. And then issues of inclusive governance deals with issues of transformation, particularly with regards to targeted groups, such as women, youth, people with disability, veterans, etc. Then we'll elaborate on some of these issues when we deal with our annual plans, or if you like, annual targets, which will be part of the subsequent sections. And then, as I have earlier alluded to, when we were dealing with both the APP and the strategic planning framework, because we were doing them concurrently, because this is the first APP for the current term of the administration. Hence, there was that kind of integrated review. we were in a sense guided by the revised framework for strategic plans and annual performance plans as adopted by the relevant department, if you like, the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, located at the realm of presidency. And then some of we used what amongst, in terms of our analysis, we use what we generally refer to as a PESTEL assessment, where we consider the political dynamics, economic dynamics, social dynamics, environmental dynamics, etc. Then, if you like, we're extremely very substantive thereof. And then, of course, guided by those policy imperatives and the trends, we then isolated areas that are of significant relevance to the office of the Premier. And amongst others, we reaffirm that the office must provide stronger leadership in coordinating departments and municipalities to ensure alignment with the LDP. And then, of course, another critical element is to create an economic enabling environment towards job creation and economic growth thereof. And then, of course, issues of social stability were also identified as the key issues. And then with regards to technology, this is historically, we've been talking about technology as an enabler for productivity. But due to the imperatives of the fourth industrial revolution, it is actually a strategic condition. You can't drive the modern economies without having agility with regards to digital transformation. But I would like to indicate to the honorable members that this is a new trajectory. Then as the office, we are still grappling with it. But at the level of prioritization, we have agreed that it should receive the necessary attention. Then on environmental sustainability, issues of climate change has reflected and now confirmed that we are going to have disasters more often than ever before. And then as a province, of course, equally so, as the state or as a South African government, we need to be responsive to these imperatives. And then, of course, during the last financial year, we have indeed encountered those disasters, floods, etc., that were very exceptional as compared to previous trends. Then, of course, issues of legal compliance, bearing in mind that we are a constitutional state. Then whatever we do should be guided by empowering legislation and or a policy. Then on the basis of that, we then also reflected on the economic, the priorities that are embraced in the Limpopo Development Plan. Then I'll just isolate some few points there. For instance, one of the priorities of the current term of the administration is to ensure that there is inclusive growth or inclusive economic growth and job creation. Then when we were doing the APP, we considered the latest statistics available, released by Stats SA, on matters related to the economy. Then, which was, to be more specific, in terms of the third quarter statistical report. And then it has indicated that the economic trajectory in Limpopo was at 1%, while our target is for 2.2% for the current term of the administration. Then it elaborated on the factors that made us to perform at 1%. But then I'll not necessarily go into details there unless the honorable members pose direct questions for me to elaborate on. But while we have underperformed at that level in terms of the quarterly growth trajectory, but we also noted that as a province, for the last term of the administration, we're able to improve on our GDP contribution to the national economy, or if you like, to the national gross domestic product, whereby we have increased from 7.7% to 7.8% in percentage terms. But the point there is that as you contrast it with our LDP target, there is a marginal improvement because we want to make sure that the economy of the province contributes at least 9% to the national GDP. And then, of course, during that third quarter report, we have also noted a decline in terms of the official unemployment rate from 33% to 29%. And equally so is a positive trend, but the challenge is whether we'll be able to sustain it as a province. Then other issues that are commonly reported on is the general performance on the implementation of the expanded public works program. And then I'm just tabling it because I know the honorable members are familiar with these issues. But equally so, we have realized that we didn't make significant impact on implementing our catalytic project, which is Messina Special Economic Zone, due to a number of reasons, leadership challenges at the level of the board, and then unstable senior management echelon and other related things. Then on the basis of that, then we are saying that come the new financial year, we'll want to turn around the situation as far as the Messina Mercado SEZ is concerned, bearing in mind that the leadership has been pronouncing on this matter for years now, and the society is beginning to lose confidence on whether this SEZ will indeed be a success. But then, contrary to this negative trajectory, we are happy that the planning aspects of the Fetahomu towards SEZ were progressing exceptionally well, to an extent that as we speak today, the cabinet has actually designated this industrial park as a special economic zone, which is actually a confirmation of a lot of momentum that we have done over the last few months, if you like. Then tourism, we're continuing to perform relatively well as the province, and then our focus is to sustain the momentum thereof. With regards to education, there were also some significant developments, including the concerted effort to eradicate pit latrines, whereby by the end of the third quarter, we were only left with 4 schools, which indeed was a positive trajectory. And then issues of ICT, we have made some inroads, but we believe that there is still a lot to be done, especially in terms of supporting provision of education as a service, or quality education as a service. Then other issues, I just want to table them for noting without implying that the honorable members won't pose questions unto. Then on issues of governance and safety, that equally so, the crime levels have been declining as we are guided by the Q3 report. Unfortunately, issues of gender-based violence and femicide continue to be a serious challenge for the province, which then means that we need to give rigorous attention to the interventions thereof. Then the other issues that we broadly flagged in our APP relates to a need to strengthen our monitoring and evaluation capacity as the OTP, and it is indeed a work in progress. Then on macroeconomic overviews, I think I've already dealt with the issues, except to say that in terms of the global economic trajectory, the World Bank projected that in 2026, we are likely to have an average growth rate of 3% globally. But that was when we were dealing with the APP. Now we know that immediately after that projection, we had a US-Iran war, which had a huge impact on the global economy, which we may, if we are not fortunate, if we are fortunate, we may avoid a global recession. But the likelihood is that we may equally have a global recession, which then will have an impact on our economic performance as a province. Then I think those were the issues with regards to the economic trajectory. But I think slide number 33 just provides a comparative analysis on our performance as the Limpopo relative to the country versus other provinces. And then you may see that during, without necessarily belaboring the point, during that annual growth trajectory reported during the year, we were basically, in 2024 to be specific, we were actually leading economy in terms relative to other provinces, and we even performed above the national average. But as a point that I made earlier, a strategic challenge is whether we'll be able to sustain this momentum, honorable members. Then we then went into details on the necessary targets, but I think before that, here I'll be a little bit faster. On population dynamics, the province has also increased its population from 5.9 million to, in terms of the last part one statistical report, to 6.3 million, which means that our population rate is increasing. And it continues to have a situation whereby women are in majority at 52.2%. And the implication of this gender aggregation is that as we analyze our development plans, our APP strategic plans, we'll then have to continuously reflect on to what extent is our program impacting on improving the living conditions of women, because they are a majority in Limpopo. And of course, due to lack of time, I could even go deeper into that, but I think for now that point is adequate. And then with regards to language dynamics, the statistics indicates that we are having a new language which is now becoming one of the prevalent spoken languages in Limpopo, Shona. It was not there before. Then, in a sense, it confirms the migratory trends between Limpopo and the neighboring countries, because Shona is predominantly being spoken in Zimbabwe. Then now you have got the Shona community in Limpopo. Then it then means that from a policy perspective, we need to be conscious of that reality. Of course, in terms of youthful population, that trend continues to prevail. Then I won't go into details now there. Then slide number 38 confirms what is generally referred to the household size. In a predominantly rural economy, you will find that in a household, on average, will have more than 6 people. But the more the spatial economy gets transformed, then that household becomes smaller and smaller. And then this actually gives, this slide number 38 gives that picture, that Limpopo is gradually becoming smaller and smaller. And then, which then means that when you plan for services, whereby you use household as a reference point, you need to then plan accordingly. Because if you don't do that, then you are going to have some service delivery challenges. Hence, when communities are demanding for water, they no longer need communal taps. they actually need household connections. Then which then have a huge implication or in the manner in which we want to deliver water services to the people. Then slide number 39 is actually reaffirming the quantitative statistics on the migration trends. Then I will not spend time there because of time. But that table is easily confirming the point I've made earlier, that there is a massive movement of people into and out of the province. And the most people that are coming into province are largely coming from the SADC countries. And the people that are exiting the province, predominantly young people, then they go to Gauteng to look for the economic opportunities. Then the issue is that if we want to retain this youthful population, we need to accelerate our industrialization agenda. Then 41 deals with the implications, then I won't go into details there. And then the labor market trends, it shows, as we already indicated, that we have an official unemployment rate of 28%, which in terms of the international standards is still very high. But then we also indicate that there is a significant number of young people whom are equally looking for jobs, who are not in employment, education, or training, at 31%, which is a significant figure. Then it propels that we need to then develop targeted strategies to deal with this phenomenon. Then we may then, then in terms of the subsequent slides are actually dealing with the necessary interventions to deal with the youth unemployment or young people who are in need, who are not in training, employment, etc. Then the province has developed the Limpopo Human Capital Investment Strategy, which focuses mainly on issues of skills development for the youth, and all the relevant structures are put in place. We have got strategic partnerships with the institutions of higher education and training, universities, TVETs, and SETAs that are some of them are intending to expand their portfolio in the province. Then part C deals with annual targets, and here, with your permission, honorable members and the chair, I'll just try to be high level, but we are open for further clarity-seeking questions. Program 1, which is administration, by definition, it focuses on the capacity and the capability of the office in making sure that the Premier has got the requisite machinery to coordinate. Then it's largely issues of administrative services, financial administration, labor relations, etc. And overall, honorable members, we are doing exceptionally well here. But in the last financial year, which then translates into a priority for the current financial year, is that we did not do well in terms of HR recruitment. We were just having some, what I loosely refer to as teething issues of transition. Because often in administration, the first financial year has got its own change management imperatives. But we have now put the necessary plans in place to make sure that we do not have this challenge again in the current financial year. And then, of course, we generally reflect to overall outcomes. If you like, the cross-cutting governance and performance management systems relating to human resource development, in as far as the office is concerned, like as I earlier alluded to, implementation of the professionalization framework, making sure that we achieve at the minimum 50% representation of women at SMS level, at the minimum, because historically the office was on average at 52%, but we have regressed based on the reasons that I've provided for earlier. then issues related to people with disability, corruption, issues of anti-corruption, etc. Then that is essentially the core of our program 1. Then program and then the budget allocation for the office, which I presume the honorable members are now familiar with. I'll just isolate one point. When you check on the 2024-25 financial year, which is basically the last financial year, and compare it with the 2026-27 financial year, there is this significant increase from 521 million to 653 million. The reason there, honorable members, is because there are, this largely due to that once-off allocation of 60 million dealing with issues of sustainable livelihoods. It was not there before, but we hope if we implement this focus program well, it will then continue to thrive in the outer years. And the intention there is to give targeted support on women SMMEs, youth SMMEs, and SMMEs owned by people with disability. Then it's more innovative, and then we are grappling with it. But when we come back to present on quarterly performance, we'll go into details on how we have conceptualized it. Then, as I said, this once off. Then, when we go into 2027-28 financial year, in a sense, there is in terms of preliminary allocations, there is some kind of a regression. Then other details we'll be happy to venture into if there are clarity-seeking questions, but slide number 56 is more elaborate, and each program we are elaborating for accordingly. And then with regards to IDS, institutional support and IDS, institutional development and support, this is basically the way we are trying to then build requisite capacity and capability of provincial administration in terms of providing support, strategic support to departments, and equally giving strategic oversight thereof. And then on the same issues that are applicable to Program 1, strategic human resource management, skills development, transformation program, ICT, and legal services. And then the general trend there, in a sense, honorable members and the chair, replicates what I've said for the office. Almost all provincial departments were unable to spend their allocations on the COE, which is a challenge. But then the Executive Council, as early as last week, convened a meeting to make sure that the HODs and the heads of corporate management and the CFOs recommit themselves to address this challenge. And then on ICT, I've already indicated the significance of this key performance area in the current era. Then we then go into substantive details there, then I will not necessarily bore the honorable members with such, bearing in mind that they've gone through the submission. But then slide number 65 goes into details with regards to budget allocation to this specific program. And here, the thrust of the allocations there is around or related to ICT, agility for the province. As I said, that we want to be more aggressive on it. Then on governance and policy, in a sense, I've already spoken to these issues when I was dealing with the planning regime, issues of LDP, monitoring and evaluation, policy development and stakeholder management, and provincial communications. Then with your permission, Honorable Chair, I would not want to belabor the point, but slide number 73 goes into details accordingly. And then that's the conclusion. We therefore, MEC, I therefore hand over to you. Thanks.
Chair, I think that's our presentation. I'm not so sure if you wanted us to also deal with the implementation of the resolution at the same time. DG, maybe you wanted to get a chance to take a sip.
I was guided by the
Yeah, you can go to
the
the
secretariat.
implementation of the resolutions.
Thanks. I will just, with your permission, honorable members, I will just be high level. We tried to color code the progress on the directives and the resolutions of the portfolio committee, obviously flowing from various quarterly performance sessions. At a personal level, I've observed that the color coding is relative, I have to declare upfront, in the sense that, that's the first point. The second point is that most of the directives and the resolutions, and perhaps due to the areas of emphasis, are recurring. Then I thought I'll try to, without necessarily belabor the points, just isolate high-level issues that, in our view, they still need some kind of focused attention. With regards to Program 1, the honorable members have consistently raised two issues. The first one was with regards to the filling of funded vacant posts, and then I've already went into details on what were the challenges there and our commitment to reverse this regressive trend. The second one related to for the office, although it's transversal in nature, but let me couple it, relates to issues of consequence management, where certain things are not done by us as officials at the different levels of the organization, and meaning the provincial administration, and no one seems to be taking the necessary action. Then in line with that, we have adopted, the Executive Council has adopted what we loosely, actually not loosely, as it is, consequence management framework, which I earlier made reference to say that in instances where HODs or the accounting officers are unable to take action in relation to their subordinates, then the MEC, the relevant MECs must then advise the Premier to take the necessary action against the HODs. And the office should also play that oversight role, advisory role to the Premier to say, as we analyze the performance, we can then indicate to the Premier that we think that there is a need for an intervention in this department or in that department. Then it is it's an unfolding work because we have just started recently. Then the other issue on issues of human capital relates to issues of implementing the policy on affirmative procurement, targeting women, youth, and people with disability, and lately the military veterans. Then with regards to women and youth for the office, and actually even for the province, there is a significant improvement. But we still have challenges with regards to people with disability. But as we speak, fast forward, now the provincial treasury has started to deal with advocacy awareness. They are convening workshops across the districts just to make sure that these two sectors are given the necessary training to be responsive to the imperative. And then with regards to the economy, broadly, we, as the honorable members have already talked to that, the issue of the special economic zones continues to be a challenge. And even if on a quarter to quarter, will say, no, the CEO has been appointed, the board has been established, but the reality of the matter is that Messina Mercado is still, has not yet recovered. Then I thought I need to also to isolate on that specific point. Then there will also be issues which for me, they are more consequential, issues of Arabs, etc. But they are consequential because the overarching imperative is whether you are implementing the consequence management framework or not. If we don't take action, then it means that officials will continue to do wrong things. Then I thought that I should broadly make that statement so that I don't have to go through the report item by item, because it is relatively lengthy, but the themes are more or less the same. Then they just recur across the quarters. Thanks, Honorable MEC.
Thanks, Chair. We are done with those two items, the annual performance plan and the implementation of the resolutions. Back to you, Chair.
No, thanks, MEC, for the presentation of those items. I guess honorable members were listening to the presentation, and I would afford honorable members space to then engage the presentation as made by the DG. Honorable members. Honorable Medler.
No, thanks very much, Honorable Chairperson, and good evening to all. The entourage is led by the Acting Premier, Honorable Makam, and also the staff. Let me welcome the presentation as presented by the HOD. Just to, as he has already indicated that he presented, he wanted to present at a higher level, of which we appreciate that. But I want to start on the implementations of the resolutions. Chairperson, starting from the 2024-2025 financial year, he clearly indicated that most of the issues are recurring. We're just worried about this line item of employment of people with disabilities. Because if you can check, it's recurring from the previous years up until even now. And I'm worried, Chairperson, especially on the disciplinary actions of personnel who fails to declare. And to me, that is a clear management matter that I don't think it must recur, which means something is not happening somewhere. We need to make sure that, and there is no, my worry is that they are there, and there is no even action plan as to how are we going to recover on that aspect, including the verification of qualifications of the SMS people. So you can see where there is negligence of some kind. Chairperson, on the resolutions generally, the resolutions that we had was 124 resolutions. And we might say we have implemented some, but to me, I expect the Office of the Premier to lead, because we must lead by example as the Office of the Premier. So if we have got resolutions, for example, in a specific time, 19 resolutions that were not implemented at all, what does it mean? We perused your document, the resolutions that you submitted. So 19 resolutions at some point were not even touched, were not even implemented. And there were no reason why these implementations, these resolutions were not implemented. So like the oversight that we did go at practice here, especially on the refurbishment of the offices and network staffing and so on, there is no reason why we did not implement those kind of resolutions. Chairperson, I want to also talk to the APPs, just because I just believe we will tackle them simultaneously. That if you can check, Chairperson, on the Premier's budget speech, page 2, the mandate of the Premier is to strengthen, coordinate, and driving accountability. And of course, to achieve this mandate, the Office of the Premier has been allocated 653.5 million in the 2026-27 financial year. And I acknowledge that we have seen that it has been spread across the 3 programs. But it is critical for the Portfolio Committee to check, as we are now, in terms of this resolution, that you acknowledge the issues of Makhado SEZ and Fitahomo SEZ. And we cannot stop talking about this because in the SOPA, during the SOPA, the Premier stated very clear that we are going to produce many job opportunities in that regard. And if it's not yielding any positive result, it leaves much to be desired. We also want to a progress report in terms of those catalytic project. We must also provide a report on the revitalization on the key industrial parks in Limpopo, and the action plan to ensure that all departments comply with equity target, especially at an SMS level and procurement processes. Chairperson, we also want to check the action plan outlining progress taken to fill all funded vacant posts. Lastly, from that aspect, you spoke very well in terms of the IGR and the district development model. We must also provide, if they should provide progress taken into, especially the issue of the water crisis and flood disaster across Limpopo. Because when we do our oversight work, especially at constituency level, there is a serious crisis with regard to that. And we know that our budget in that regard was more than some billions. But so far, we also need to be taken care of, abreast with regard to that. Chairperson, I think I will come and make follow-up if I'm not covered in terms of what other honorable members may want to raise. Thank you.
No, thanks, Honorable Medler. Honorable Mukwele.
Colleagues, on the resolutions, the first resolution that I want to talk about is on the vacancy rate. And it has been highlighted green. According to your coding, it means it is fully implemented. But if you look at the notes under that particular caption of vacancy rate, it is still saying you have 10.7% of these issues that are not attended to. So according to me, if we're still having 10% funded posts which are not filled, it can be green. It can be green. And we understand that the issue of vacancy may be revolving. It can be green today, it can be yellow tomorrow, but based on the percentage, there's no way we can say it is fully implemented. In fact, the vacancy rate will never be fully, that resolution will never be fully implemented because time and again there are those natural attrition, resignations, advertising, the timelines and all those things. So I don't think the the green code gives us the proper version of what is happening, especially that even though I had this from the Minister of Education through the media, I haven't got into the details of what was taken. Was talking about the vacancy rate in terms of teachers, and she said Limpopo tops all the provinces with more than 4,000 vacancy rate funded. And it means that those posts are occupied by either temporary educators, or maybe they are even vacant. So these are some of the issues that, as and when you are doing your monitoring and evaluation, you have to get a report on what is happening. With the 4,000 is too much. In no time, you'll be seeing people marching to say, fill the post, absorb all the temporary educators, and we don't want to go back there. You know the history of these temporary educators versus the vacant posts in education in Limpopo. So I think we need to be proactive on that one. On the issue of the disability, you said there is an improvement. But remember, like we said, this is a recurring issue. In the previous engagement, your office highlighted the challenge that you have in terms of capturing the disabled in particular on the database, that most of them are receiving social grants. And as such, according to the policies now, they are unable to be absorbed, or they cannot qualify for other benefits or other opportunities within the department. And we said, at least come up with a framework or something that how are we going to unlock this challenge, because it's a barrier and it may affect our attainment of that particular target of ensuring that there is a particular quota within this sector. The other issue on the economy, you spoke about the SEZ. Honorable Metle has spoke about that, but I want to talk about, in your presentation, where you are supporting and where you are giving progress, you are mainly talking to the departments within the province. And there is very little said about the state entities, your leader and all those other 3D entities. And that is where we're having a challenge. And that is where we were expecting that if they're functioning, we would be able to have many people employed in those sectors. So, but very little is said. We know that you have got that task team that you have established to deal with that, with the entities in particular. But you are not reporting to this committee in terms of what is the progress, what are the challenges that you are having, and then what is the way forward. On the issue of programs that you have indicated, on the social issues, I think it's program number 2, you were agreeing that indeed there is an improvement in terms of how education performs, the audit outcomes. It has moved from unqualified, which has been there, qualified, which has been there for more than 10 years, to qualified. There's also an issue that you were able to provide, the education was able to provide 7.7 thousand learner tablets. I want to challenge you on this one. And I hope that all of us were from the families. Maybe your children are in the private schools. But for us whose children are in the public schools, we know that indeed the tablets were distributed. But is there any evaluation and monitoring that they are used? If I can tell you my personal experience, they've been distributed. They are in our houses, kept safely. They kept safely. Just parents get these tablets, put them safely until further notice. and ourselves will tick to say, we have distributed, and indeed is a fact that we have distributed 17,000, but they are not used. Others are stored in the cupboards in the strong room of the schools, but because of the issue of vandalism and other schools are just saying, just call parents to come and get these tablets. And then when we say, hey, what are we doing with this? Nobody knows. Until further notice will tell you. The year ends. So this is one issue that I wanted to raise. Yeah, I think those are the issues that I wanted to. No, the last one I think is with the undocumented learners of 72,892. Is this number in Limpopo or is it national? And I hear you even considering that we need to have a policy shift in terms of language, that we have got a majority of people or a section of the society in Limpopo that is speaking Shona. And maybe you want to incorporate this in the curriculum or what. But I don't have any problem with that policy. But question is that are we mastering our own languages? Do a learner from Ramatlala exposed to Venda language or Tsonga language before we explore this other? We become very creative with these other things. And you are correctly saying there are undocumented learners. And we are aware of the court ruling on undocumented learners that they must be allowed in the schools. There's no way you can chase them. But the policy review vis-a-vis our own challenges in terms of language, and especially the vernacular language, to our learners. So I'm just questioning that. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thanks, Honorable Mkwele. Honorable Spuro.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Let me also appreciate the presentation as made. I just want to emphasize the point that it is problematic for the Office of the Premier to leave things as they are and try and come up with nice English of avoiding to address the challenges at hand. You can't talk of a consequent management framework when you are faced with a challenge that you are seeing right in front of you. You avoid this one, and now you're going to think of ways and means of addressing it in future. Are you then suggesting that this one that you are facing right in front of you, you're going to put it aside and then think of addressing those that can occur in future? But by so doing, we will be setting a wrong precedent. Even if you were to be taken to court, somebody will be saying that, but this and that one were left. So I've committed the same mistake as them, but those ones were left. I'm being targeted for punishment. So to me, there is lack of political and administrative will on the part of both the executive authority and those who are responsible for the administration. You need to rethink the strategy. Go and address the challenges that are lying there in front of your eyes and come and report to this committee as to what is it that you have done to address those challenges. We are complaining and moaning about high unemployment rate. When you have got vacant positions that you could be able to advertise and help reduce the levels of unemployment by way of absorbing those who qualify into those positions, we would be regarded as the province rather people who care less about people living with disabilities, because there are positions that are vacant, and we simply do not fill them. Why? Because those people maybe are not important. If they were important, you would have advertised those. Talking of recurring issues, why should issues recur? And a lot of them, for that matter. You must have a plan of preventing issues from recurring. You should be telling us that after we have identified that these issues are recurring, we are going to address them this way and that way. To me, I just see you coming up with good ways of justifying why you are not acting on matters that you're supposed to act on. Let me pause here, Honorable Chair.
Thanks, Honorable Spur. Honorable Medley.
No, thanks very much, Honorable Chairperson. Just quick, I wanted to talk to the issue of IGRF vis-a-vis the DDM as a policy mandate, and acknowledging that there are champions in that regard. But what we also need to take into cognizance is that there is an outcry, especially coming to the issue of the IDP at the local level, that departments are not sending people, especially officials, to deal with the integrated issues level in terms of the policies and all those things. So as the Office of the Premier, we need to make sure that we take that into consideration, because we are aware that the issue of the district development model is there to make sure that we cap those abnormalities that are there. But in a real sense on the ground, there are very serious issues that need our attention. I think it's the Office of the Premier who can deal with that. On the implementation of the Limpopo Development Plan, I think I'm very happy with the priority number 1, number 2, and number 3, and the key progress there is also satisfactory. But the question that I wanted to ask there is that what measures have been taken by the Office of the Premier in particular to ensure that the APPs of all departments align with the Limpopo Development Plan? Because currently they are not aligned. So we need to make sure that those alignment is there for the smooth running of the departments. Chairperson, lastly, on my side, I also wanted to talk to the indicators, especially on the targets on program 2. If you can check there, I think Honorable Esther Mukwele has already tried to indicate in terms of the... in terms of the number of the departments that have been implemented in terms of monitoring and evaluation. But I wanted to ask, in terms of we're not doing well. We think we must acknowledge we're not been doing well when it comes to addressing the issues related to gender-based violence. And the following output indicators were part of the 2025-2026 financial year, but were not included in the 2026-2027 financial year. 1, the number of departments monitored on the implementation of Limpopo Public Sector Skills Plan, I think is there in your page 271 of your 2025-2026. The number of targeted stakeholders group engaged in transformation program in terms of your APP is page 71. And the number of department monitors on the implementation of service delivery improvement plan is your page 75, and the number of departments monitored on the implementation of strategic pillars, especially on the anti-corruption strategy. So the question becomes, why were these output indicators not included in the 2026-2027 APP? And how will these matters be reported if they are not appearing anywhere? Thanks, Chairperson.
No, thanks, Honorable Metle. I guess honorable members have raised many of the issues that I would have loved to raise. Maybe I'll just need to make some additions with regard to those issues raised. One, with the issue, let me welcome the presentation as made by the DG today here. The DG has a way of preempting issues that you are going to raise in the meeting, such that he will then have to ensure that they get addressed. Of course, he will identify the critical issues that honorable members are likely to raise in engaging the presentation, and try to deal with them in advance, so that we are collapsed. Yeah, in the presentation by the DG, of course, there has been an indication to say, an acknowledgement, of course, with regard to the matter regarding issues of people living with disabilities, and it has been an issue that my colleagues here have raised. The DG has made indication to say that the provincial treasury is going all out doing advocate work with regard to ensuring that matters of supply chain pertaining to people living with disabilities are well known all over the province. But I must indicate that in the meetings that we had, we were able to show a constraint with regard to the participation of people living with disabilities in matters of supply chain. And my fellow honorable members have raised it here. So what it means is that we appreciate the work that the provincial treasury is doing. Of course, it will assist in ensuring that people living with disabilities get to know that they are also considered in the province, and they are also expected to participate in those matters. But we would want to check to say, because mere advocacy wouldn't assist the process. It would aid it, of course, but it wouldn't necessarily resolve the problem that we are facing as the province, and that consistently affects the performance of the Office of the Premier, as well as other departments, of course. We're expecting the Office of the Premier to be creative, come up with ways and means of ensuring that the constraint with regard to this matter is addressed, because we can agree here that advocacy alone would never assist the process, would never resolve the problem that we have. If people living with disabilities cannot participate and be part of the database on the basis that they are receiving grants, we will have this, or the problem will remain perennial. It will never go away. We will come here, talk about it, it will never go away. So the expectation of this committee is that there should be an indication by the Office of the Premier that they are coming up with better ways of trying to bring this matter to finality. It can't be an issue that is consistently there. And I guess there would be many avenues that the Office of the Premier can be able to utilize so that at the ultimate end, this gets resolved. It may not be resolved tomorrow, but there should be an indication, and we should be able to see that there is that inclination of resolving this problem. Another issue, of course, like I indicated, my colleagues have covered almost everything, but I will just raise them for matter of emphasis. We have said water, it's a crisis in the province. Water is a crisis in the province. And if it remained not being addressed, or if whatever programs that we are coming up with aren't addressing the problem to our satisfaction, then it will never go away, even this problem too. So then it becomes a challenge, MEC. If you have got a resolution with regard to issues of water, then that resolution does not get responded to by the Office of Premier. It becomes a challenge because we all agree that water is a serious challenge in the province. And it's an issue that needs to be addressed, and it must be addressed now. So if a resolution on water does not get addressed, then it becomes a problem. Of course, like we've indicated that we are not happy that most of the resolutions, or many resolutions, in terms of our own calculations, we could say that the Office of the Premier have managed to deal with 56% of the resolutions that have been raised by the committee. We appreciate that. We appreciate that, but we're not happy that a lot has not been responded to. We are not happy, Honorable MEC, that a lot has not been responded to, because we believe that the identification of such kind of resolutions clearly is a clear indication that there are some gaps that need to be filled so that those matters get addressed. And if the gaps seemingly are not being attended to, it then becomes a problem. With issues of water, water is very much critical even with regard to issues of economic, very much critical. If the challenges of water remains in the province, they will obviously impact on the economy of the province. So that is why this issue of water, it's a very serious problem that would paralyze the province if measures are not being taken to ensure that at the ultimate end they get addressed. We said the Office of the Premier should be able to come up with district-specific interventions in attending to the issues of water in the province, because obviously you would have each district might have its unique challenges, and we would need that as and when interventions are crafted, they are specific to each district. So we would want to see that happening. The other issue, of course, which the DG has acknowledged, is to say that, of course, with regard to matters of filling of posts, which of course impact on the spending of COE, and it's across all departments. Remember, one of our priorities is issues of economic growth, job creation. And if there are opportunities for us to have our people getting jobs, then we are not utilizing those opportunities as government. And we have got a priority that specifically deals with issues of job creation. Then it's also a challenge. We expect, of course, the DG has indicated that the expectation is that in this new financial year, they will be able to move with speed to attend to such kind of matters. And hopefully, we are expecting to see that happening. We're expecting to see that happening because it's about the economy of the province. And we must be able to contribute in our own small way as government with regard to these matters of job creation. And if there are indeed jobs and there are posts, and those posts are funded, and we then don't utilize that space, it's not looking good on us. Another issue that I would just want to highlight, of course, it's on the basis of Honorable Medley has indicated quite a number of targets that might have been left out, which were there. One of those targets is from where I stand, I guess it's also very critical with regard to in building a professional provincial administration. The issue of number of departments monitored on the implementation of Limpopo Public Sector Plan. Where I am, I think it's very critical that if the Office of the Premier can't be able to monitor such kind of a plan, which would assist in ensuring that the administration of the province is professionalized, then that will work against that priority, unless if I get clarified otherwise. Another issue, in our previous meeting with the Office of the Premier, I made an indication to say, you see, it has been quiet with regard to the noise that have been there of corruption in the province. There was this quiet in the province. But if let's say you get rid of this issue that deals with the number of departments on the strategic pillars of the national anti-corruption strategy, I guess personally it will also affect how we have been dealing with the issue of corruption in the province, unless I'm clarified otherwise. The other issue that I wanted to raise here, it's with regard to clean audit. I have said we appreciate that the province it's on a better trajectory of improving the audit opinion. But there has been some departments that has been consistent in achieving unqualified audit opinion. My question will be, what is it that the Office of the Premier, as well as the Treasury, are doing differently to assist those departments so that they are able to move? I'm made to believe, I'm persuaded that again, you can't just keep on doing the same thing expecting to get different results. So I know some things have been done, but seemingly they never assisted in ensuring that we achieve the required results. What is it that we're doing differently to assist those departments so that they ultimately can achieve a clean audit? We got, I guess we got a potential of ensuring that all departments get clean audits in the province. We got that potential. And if we can just ensure that we are able to attend to matters in each department dealing with their own challenges, it might assist in ensuring that at the ultimate end we are able to improve. These are the few questions that I wanted to raise, MEC. That is your platform.
Thanks very much, Chair. I will try to start with some of the simpler questions and then hand over to the most difficult one to the DG and the team. I'm raising this because you will note some of them, like there are transversal issues. As the MEC responsible for corporate governance, I also have a share of it, either working with municipalities. So I will try to talk to some of them. Maybe the first that I want to talk about, it's about job creation as one of the priorities of this 7 administration, vis-a-vis those elements that should be able to help resolve this issue. I think most of the members have raised, Honorable Mete raised the issue of the Musina Makado SCZ, Honorable Mukwili raised it as well. Now, I think it's a matter that the special economic zone was intended to have a particular number of jobs that should be created. And it has been sitting with us for quite some time. And you might have noticed some of the actions that this 7 administration has done in trying to revamp, whether it's a board at the board level or political level or governance level, but also administratively. You might have been aware that we have started to appoint senior executives in that regard who should be able to contribute more on job creation. I think if evidence to that effect can be presented, you will be seeing the political will to make sure that this Musina Makado should not necessarily be just a thing. Work has started now, practically on the ground. But you will have noticed that the Fidako Mutubatse area has now been declared by Cabinet as no longer just an industrial park, but also a special economics, simply because of the push that continues to be done by the Premier with the help of the entire Executive Council. All of us who don't necessarily say it's a baby of a department of LIDAT without necessarily all of us working together, making sure, because for them to be where they are, Honorable Chair, the Musina municipality should be able to take certain resolution, and as the responsible executing authority with municipalities, will make sure that that part get to be taken. I know you will be knowing now, some of the land matters were lying with National Department of Public Works. The current MEC in the province have been working so hard with the Minister of Public Works to make sure that that land release get to be approved so that the work should be able to take place earnestly on the ground. So I'm trying to show how these matters of job creation we are taking serious as this 7 administration led by the Premier. The other matter which Honorable Sipuru and all the members is the issue of the vacancy rate, the 10 points. Fortunately, I must declare I was part of the panel that is to assess the DG in the province. And this matter has been raised. But following that, last week, Wednesday, we had what we will call an extended executive council, where all HODs, all CFOs, all DDG responsible for corporate services were in one meeting where each and every department was accounting on spending, but focusing mainly on 2 areas. Spending on COEs, what is it that is a problem, and how the Premier is leading in that space to make sure that the department that does well in terms of recruitment, it should not be a secret, Public Works could be able to display that it does not necessarily take more than 3 months for them to fill a vacancy which is there. And they were priding themselves that almost 500 permanent workers have been appointed. Then all those departments that necessarily are not doing well were being encouraged. Not only being encouraged because we think it's no longer about encouraging and achieving that. It's a dire need because in some instances, departments will not be spending just on a mere EPWP. And in that meeting, a resolution was taken to say if the department requires, say, 200 EPWP at the time, because of what Honorable Mukwili said that there will be resignation, natural attrition, why don't we recruit, say, 300, and the 200 get to be appointed, the 100 be on the waiting list when all the processes have been carried. So when somebody else resigns, or when somebody else passes on through natural attrition, then you just simply take that and fill so that we continue to have the maximum targets that we're supposed to. And these are some of the things that we are trying to do. A matter was raised here about the disaster and the issue of water. And I think I should start with the water matter, that the Premier has taken a lead to lead in that regard, practically so. We have established in the province some war rooms, water war rooms. We started with Polokwane as a water service authority, and we started to see some improvements, but we went to Wembe, we went to Waterberg in trying to resolve. But we're not only just trying to resolve where there is a shortage of water supply due to capacity challenge or capabilities. We have started to work with even water agents like your Lepelle Northern Water, Makalis, to try to bring them on board, but also unblocking all those projects that has been there which makes people not to receive water. And I think there is some serious improvements in that regard, and we're trying to work on it, that we start to see positives. If you were to, I were to give an example, in Wembe, Honorable Chair, there is one project called the Kutama Sintumuli project. It was started somewhere in 2007. Today, as we speak, the project has not yet started to yield water, but we started to focus on working with the National Department, not to receive any additional amount to new projects, but also to fix. I think you might have seen the minister was in the province just in May, trying to look at these issues so that we can be able to unblock. We are trying our best. Last week or so, I was with the Premier in Lipalale We met even with the board of Lepelle Northern Water on the work that they are doing to make sure that there's water in Thabazimbi, there's water in Mudimule Mkhopong, there is water in Vila Vila. And we are trying to look at what is the shortage or deficit of water and how do we mitigate for those deficits in trying to build capacity either for these water boards as well, so that we can be able to. So I'm trying to say we understand that this water is not only for consumption or for agricultural purposes, but it should be able to help grow the economy, hence it is attended to as such. On the issue of disaster, it's one thing that it has taken us back. Honorable Chair, that I must say, if you look at the amount of money that we have now as a province invested on disaster, if we did not have that disaster, you look at that money have been invested in the excess of more than $1 billion in terms, I'm talking about only sector departments, I'm not even talking about municipalities. You will see that we could have covered a ground. So even when you will have a program like the Khere Wednesday, all the work that they will have done has been swept up. We need to restart the process, but also derail us to do the other things, because you can see that each and every department, whether it's a school, whether it's a library, whether it's roads, whether it's houses, that we could have moved on building new houses. We had to go and look for money. How do we repair those? But also, how do we purchase temporary structures which that money could have been invested in making new houses? So I'm trying, the Office of the Premier, even in this regard, since the declaration or classification of a disaster in the province, the Premier has taken a lead in making sure that in all sector departments and municipalities, we do. We even have our sessions, not technically, politically, and look at the spending of each and every department and make sure that we work on that. That are some of the things that are in the process. The last one I want to talk to, it's about what the chairperson said, that the DG seemed to anticipate and try to collapse the members in raising issues. It's just the quality that we have. That the DG is able to understand the administration. It's not the DG of the OTP. It's a DG wherein whatever happens in Coxstar, in public works, in everywhere, he takes keen interest. When the political pronouncement is made, either by the Premier himself or MECs, it becomes his responsibility to make sure that he assists even the... We have seen it live, even ourselves, that the DG takes interest of all the departments performing. And I think it's something that is a positive thing. Chair, I must tell, I'm in my second term in the Executive Council. It is for the first time we even have all HODs in all the 10 departments being appointed, and the speed that OTP does in filling those positions. So that's why it may not necessarily be him, because he has people not to go in one department where we'll normally stay for long without accounting officers. But as for now, we have. There is one last question I want to help, and I think the chairperson was short of saying, the example is Coxstar. Of a department that have been sitting on unqualified for a long time. Coxstar is one of those that we have got 5 years consecutives sitting on unqualified. So even before I can say what is it that is being done, I should be able to account on this space. What is it that we should do differently? Learning from other departments. Treasury is busy helping us. Maybe there are 2 areas that I think are the main issue that makes departments not to graduate to clean audits. One of the things is about the quality of the annual financial statements. What are we doing? The accounting practices that we should be able to use. We make it an issue. It's part of the performance agreement, Honorable Chair, of all the MECs together with the Premier. One of the requirements is your performance on the audit outcomes improving. And that becomes automatic, that once I get into the agreement with the Premier, I must do the same with the CFO and other DDGs. But what is it that we are doing differently this time? Some of the departments who have got infrastructure projects, we started to implement that we call probity audit. Probity audit will be done immediately. You advertise, you appoint, even before you wait for the actual audit outcomes or coming of the external audit, just to audit your processes, whether they are right. It's part of the strategy. But also, part of it, it's about how we start to collaborate with AG themselves, that our financial statements get to be prepared on a quarterly basis. We don't have to wait until the end of the financial year. And these are some of the works that are done. The last one is consequence management. Honorable Sipuru says it's like we see the problem. We don't want to act. We go and look for a framework so that we postpone not acting this time around. But the reality is, also when you go for consequence management, that will take long process because of the loopholes and gaps in the labor relations. Does not help to deal with that consequence management. So this framework was trying to come with closing the gaps that are there, so that by the time we subject any official to a disciplinary process, the process should not be cumbersome, should not take long, where you will find that there are almost 5 years when you are still disciplining an official, whether he's suspended, getting money, putting somebody acting in this position. So we are trying to close it so that when we start the disciplinary process in a reasonable time that is provided for, we conclude, we find somebody guilty, act, or if a dismissal, so that we can be able to replace. Those are things, Honorable Chair, I felt I should be able to do. Like I said, we do have a quality in the entire team of the DG will start. If there are some of the things that will require CFO and other DDGs to respond to, they will be able to share the responsibility. Thanks very much, Chair.
Thanks, Honorable MEC and the Chair and the honorable members. No, the Honorable MEC has captured all the substantive issues. Then I'll just deal with some areas that were more of direct questions. For instance, Honorable Mukwele had a different view with regards to a resolution on page 2, which says that address the decline, to support further reductions in vacancy rates. That's how this resolution is captured. And when we give a progress report, we says every quarter, the office monitors the implementation of recruitment plans and filling of replacement posts to ensure a reduction in the vacancy rate. Meaning that we actually, it's a green coded thing because the directive is implemented already. Of course, maybe we went too far by just giving a global provincial picture of the current vacancy rate, which is 10.7% during that specific quarter. But the directive is fully implemented. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, and then the issue, of course, she equally raised an important point regarding higher vacancy rates of teachers in Limpopo. That is true. Actually, as you are going to deliberate on the annual reports, in case you have not yet done so, at the level of the legislature, the province underspent 1.2 billion of its provincial budget. And then more than 50% of this under expenditure, in other words, more than 500 million, is because the Department of Education was not able to fill funded vacant posts. That's the objective reality, we agree. Hence, maybe, but this is debatable. With my limited experience, honorable members, normally in the transition year, things just go wary. Well-funded posts are not being filled on time. And when I was presenting the report, that even the OTP has experienced that. But fortunately, as the Honorable MEC has already made reference to it, there was an extended EXCO meeting whereby the Executive Council as a collective agreed that all those funded vacant posts have to be filled by, the ones actually that are coming from the last financial year, by September this year. Meaning that when we go into the adjustment budget, perhaps as the portfolio committee, you may then, I'm not saying do it, it's just a view, you can reject it. You can even decide to say, no, we are going to track on this matter. And we can avail the report, because the report is readily available, if it is needed, per department, to say, this is how, actually the Treasury's consolidated expenditure report does deal with those issues. Then it's just a matter of copy and paste. And indeed, I'm not aware whether that is we are the highest in the country, but it is probable in terms of teacher vacancies, based on what we've just said. That is true. We can't hide it. And then, of course, the next question to say, what is the EXCO or the OTP doing? And we've already responded to that to say, there is a PPMC which approves departmental recruitment plans on time. During the transition year, some honorable MECs were actually misled by the HODs, because when the honorable MECs wanted to know, why are you not filling this post? They will say, no, it is because the Office of the Premier and Treasury are taking long to approve the consolidated plan. And we then provided hard evidence. Oh, no, these things are approved already. As normally we approve those things in early April, which is basically the first month of the financial year. Then it can't serve as an excuse. But obviously in the value chain, there are a lot of things happening that I don't want to bore the leadership with. And then on the disability equity targets, generally, let me talk about the office. In terms of representation, we have been doing well, because the target was 2%, and we've been complying with that 2% till the last financial year. The reason we didn't meet the target in the last financial year is because Cabinet then upgraded the target to say from 2 to 4% representation. Hence, then we are saying, no, in our view, there is progress. And generally, even in other departments, there is a general improvement there. The area that we are not doing well on, and which I've already spoken to, it relates to procurement aside for people with disability. And of course, we also accept the feedback, and we will pursue it from the honorable members, particularly the honorable chair, to say advocacy on its own is not enough. And I happen to agree. But it is a start. But we will then take that point home to see what are the other measures that we may need to put in place to make sure that we prioritize this, on this matter. Then there is also a view which says that there is little said about the state entities in the province. Yes, there is a little said on that because the nature of the APP does not allow us to have that target on the 3D entities for two reasons. The first one is that the APP format is actually done by the DPME nationally, especially for the offices of the Premier, which means to ensure the alignment between the OTPs across the country. Because if as a province then we come with our own specific APP, then that will actually disintegrate your your national MNE system. Because when the presidency is going to compare and contrast provincial OTPs, they will find that actually they are using different formats, they are using focusing on different priorities. Hence, when I started on the background, I made a reference to the National Development Plan, National Medium-Term Implementation Plan, because that is the mechanism through which you ensure a synergy. But that does not mean the OTP is doing nothing about the 3D entities. Actually, as a matter of fact, the Premier has established interministerial committee to deal with 3D entities. Your leader and GAL. And if the honorable members as the portfolio committee want the report, we'll be happy to provide that report. But it cannot be part of the APP on the reasons that I've actually provided for. Then on the learner tablets rather, yes, we are saying that they were circulated. But by so saying, we are not expressing a view which says that those learners are utilizing the tablets. Obviously, we then perhaps have to do an evaluation study if the portfolio committee requests us to do so, obviously through the Department of Education, to check what are the impact. And at face value, we can logically believe that it is a matter of change management, because these learners have never, some of them, and without patronizing our learners, some of them might have not even seen the computer before. But fast forward, they get a laptop. The parents, these are working class households, where the parents, some of them may even not know how to use a laptop without being paternalistic once more. Then it then means this finding, if of course it will be subject to further research, if this finding is correct, probability will be that we should have supplemented the distribution with the change management system so that people understand. Because it also happens in the administration. In the OTP, sometimes it's an issue. In the OTP, we've introduced an electronic filing system. Ne? But some SMS members cannot even use a laptop. Then I was saying to colleagues in the top management to say, perhaps we should start with change management, so that, because that is the nature how human beings behave. When they come with new things, there is explicit or subtle resistance. But like the DG, I can use the laptop, but the way I'm used to writing, you can see now, I have a notebook, but I have a laptop. Because it's a mindset, it's a culture that has to be changed over time. Then I'm just using that analogy to say, probably that is equally the same scenario applicable to the learners. Although young people by their nature adapt to change very fast than old people. I should also recognize that. And then, on the undocumented learners, I can't conclusively say whether that percentage is a national figure or not, unless if Mema Gwaza has got the details, but we can validate it and revert to the portfolio committee. Shona, as a policy matter, yes, it is a policy matter, because the Constitution of the Republic says all indigenous languages must be treated equally. Then if you have a significant number of citizens in course that whereby Shona is their first language, hard luck, in a metaphorical sense, hard luck. Because those Shona households, sooner than later, they will demand that. Probably. I'm raising it from that perspective, not implying that we should disregard other indigenous languages. I'm actually saying it is by practice now an addition to our indigenous languages, if you like. Then I was raising it from that angle. But obviously this is a contentious issue. Honorable members and also my colleagues can indeed have different views on it. And then the recurring issues, I was also contextual in the sense that when you check quarterly, second up to the last quarter report, some of the issues are recurring, not implying that there is nothing we are doing about it. That's why I then thought that it would be better to summarize, maybe even to save time to allow enough time for engagements, not necessarily to save time for the honorable members. The IGR versus DDM, in that context, outcry on IDP. You know, I've been in the planning fraternity on average, for the last 15 years. I worked for the municipality as a planner. I worked for Coxstar as a planner. And then I worked in the OTP as a planner. One common denominator, honorable members, get this complaint. Or no, provincial departments are not attending municipal IDP fora. But when you test it to evidence, you find that actually it's more fluid than it is. Fortunately, as the DG now, due to my planning background, I do prioritize issues of integrated planning. You will convene a provincial HOD, extended HOD strategic planning session. Invite the district MMs. Then they decide not to come. You will convene a meeting on Messina Mercato SEZ and say, no, we can't discuss Messina Mercato SEZ without the district MM and the two local MMs. Then they decide not to come. Then it's a two-way thing. But indeed, I think through the DDM approach, we believe that as it matures, there will indeed be some kind of an improvement thereof. But by so saying, I'm not justifying why sector departments are not attending. But Mema Gwasa can elaborate on it because she's responsible for planning. Alignment between the LDP, departmental strategic plans, and APPs, and the role of the OTP. For equally so, here we've got the report. Over the last 2 or 3 financial years, Mema Gwasa will validate the period. We've been, after this exercise of crafting APPs, we've been thoroughly analyzing them to check whether they are in line with, 1, their departmental strategic plans, 2, the LDP. And over the last 3 financial years, on a year-to-year basis, a confirmation is that no, there is a significant improvement. And that validation was also done by the Department of Planning and M&E in the presidency, where there is a public report which says no, there is an overall, at least in Limpopo, of course, even in other provinces, although the experience will vary from one province to another. On the gender-based violence and femicide, I've issued a preemptive acknowledgement that indeed this one we are not doing well on, and there is still a lot of scope to improve on. Then on issues of water and other things, some targets, indicators, particularly with regards to, amongst others, of course, public sector plan, or it has disappeared from the APP. I'm happy you have observed it, because I didn't observe it. That's why I was moving up, checking whether this is indeed the fact. The issue, honorable members, is that when we isolated this issue as a province, it was more province-specific before. But since Cabinet had adopted the National Professionalization Framework, some of, including issues of skills, ethical leadership, etc., recruitment procedures, they are now included in the framework. In other words, they are sub-indicators, meaning that when then we do a quarterly report on professionalization framework, and fortunately we have one, it will then go into those kind of specifics. Or in terms of building the state capacity from a training perspective, what does the province do? And as a matter of fact, the province has got a dedicated program on SMS capacity building, and over the years, we have now extended it to middle management and the traditional leaders. And if the report is requested for, we can indeed avail such a report. How do we deal with corruption, issues of corruption? It is, as part of Program 1 in the office, administration, we do talk about it with respect to the office. But even the departments, in terms of their respective Program 1s, they are expected to have a dedicated focus on this matter, at least in terms of public administration. And then from time to, on a quarterly basis, I think, I'm not sure whether this, or it's SCOPA directive, they've requested us to, because we'll be appearing before the SCOPA soon, they've requested us to do a detailed report on all the forensic investigations that were done over the last 5 years or so. And then how far are we in terms of the implementation? Then if the honorable members need the report, we can avail it. Then the SIU, obviously, SIU reports will come as per the presidential proclamation. And then the ones that were done for the province, they are all implemented. The only one which is remaining, so that I'm factual, is with regards to the Department of Public Works, which we are currently implementing. We have started with the implementation because it was issued in April this year during the transition period. And then another area platform on anti-corruption is presidential and premier hotline management reports. We do report on such on a quarterly basis, and the reports are indeed available. The clean audit strategy, we believe, when we accept the commentary made by the honorable members, but we believe that from a trend analysis point of view, the province has been improving on a year-to-year basis. Because there was a moment, not long time ago, whereby more than 60% of provincial departments had qualified audit opinions. And then you'll have one clean audit opinion, coincidentally from Coxstar. Unfortunately, on a lighter note. But then when you do that year-to-year comparative analysis, you can see that now we don't have qualified audit opinions. Of course, we still have challenges with regards to the provincial entities, and that's the area that OTP and Treasury are currently focusing on. I'm sorry, Honorable Chair, it took long, but I thought it was necessary to elaborate on these points. I think, but through you, if you'll decide whether there are additions or not. I apologize.
Okay, no, thanks, DG. Yeah, I would allow them if they feel there's something that you might have missed out as you respond to those issues that were raised. And that would assist us in not having follow-up questions. Yeah, you can proceed.
Thanks, and good evening, honorable members. I just wanted to just re-emphasize in terms of addition, the other points in terms of when you look at our APP, there are close to about 3 additional targets that were not there previously. And the DG addressed the one that deals with the training and skills and so on. There is other targets like in terms of the operational management framework in the APP. That target addresses other aspects that deal with the functionality of the provincial administration. And to actually understand it better, in the APP at the back, there is the technical indicator description, which explained which aspects of the framework it addresses. So those other aspects that the honorable members raised related to some of the targets that appear to have disappeared from the previous APP are actually embedded in the consolidated targets, A for the one that deals with the one that the DG raised and the one that deals with the operational management framework. I think that is one significant part that I felt maybe needed to be clarified, because it might appear that the DG only addressed the one target. The other aspect, I think it is addressed, but maybe let me take the chance of saying something around from what Honorable Mukwele said about the vacancy rates in relation to the DG dealt with it in the context of the achievement of the target, but she also raised the other issue in the context of the target that can never be achieved. And in terms of the sort of national agreement, is that when we deal with the vacancy, because there is a certain turnover rate in terms of people moving, the acceptable norm there is that if a department has a vacancy rate of less than 10%, it is an acceptable vacancy rate because of the turnover, staff turnover, which is the aspect. Because the proposal that the Executive Council raised with regards to additional people was probably applicable to the EPWP, but not necessarily to the other employment in the public administration. Thanks, Honorable Chair.
Thanks, Honorable Chair, and greetings to all members. Just to confirm one thing, the 72,000 undocumented learners is a provincial figure. And Vembe and Mopani, they contribute around 28,000 of that number. Thanks.
Okay, no, thanks for the comprehensive responses given, MEC. I guess we are covered in terms of responses provided by the Office of the Premier. I'm not sure, Honorable Medley, you fine. Okay. We now come into the close of our session. Let me appreciate the interaction that we've had as led by the MEC, Ntate Makamu, with the Office of the Premier. We, from time to time, will raise issues And basically, we will be glad if we are able to see tangible progress. And we must appreciate that we are aware that there is that progress happening. And I guess ultimately we might really come to the right footing where we'll be able to say we are really responding to the issues of the people of this province. And unfortunately, of course, with regard to the responsibility given to the Office of the Premier, it must lead the province. And everything about the province should be addressed by the Office of the Premier. And basically, you can check most of the questions, of the issues raised are not necessarily pertaining to what the internal dynamics of the Office of the Premier, but with regard to that responsibility that is accorded to the Office of the Premier to ensure that it coordinates the entirety of the province and make sure that everything goes well. So we really appreciate the patience demonstrated. I'm not sure if there are announcements. Coordinator.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. The only announcement that I have is for the committee. There'll be a committee meeting next week, Wednesday, and the time shall be communicated there for the adoption and consideration of the 2026-27 financial year APP and budget. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Okay. The meeting is official agenda.